Alright, today's the day. We've got the 350 turbo all built up, the trans brake in it, bolting it to the stock 350 with all my new parts on it, and then we're going to put those AFR heads on here and see what it does. Alright, we got the button inspector gloves on. We're going to come in here. My dad threw my transmission that I took out of the truck way over here. So I got to get the bolts out of it and the torque converter because I'm going to use the 3200 stall converter that I had in my old trans in the new trans because I don't need a 5500 stall because of the cam and the peak power and all that stuff. So now I got to unbury this thing and get that torque converter off. And a bearing. Alright. Might be good now. Let's see if we make it bleed all over the place when we pull it off. Nope. 2 drops. That's pretty good. Oh. This is fun. Oh yeah. Over here. Yeah. There we go. That way, when we lift it off the engine stand, we'll make it easy on ourselves. I'll lower the motor down and bolt the trans up. So I'm going to dump the old trans fluid out of this torque converter that I put in the stock 350 turbo last year. And just make sure that the fluid looks clean, and then I'll put new in here for the new trans. Just make sure there's no metal shavings, it doesn't smell like it's burnt. Alright, so we got the torque converter filled up with some new Dex 3 ATF. Now I'm just going to put a little grease around the torque converter and slide it on. I'm going to spill trans fluid all over the floor. Is it going to hit the ground? I might put a block of wood under this thing. There. One, two. We got the motor off the stand, kind of setting down low so I can put the flywheel on and bolt the trans up to it. We'll get the torque converter bolted to the flywheel. Well, we got the motor and the trans bolted together finally. The only thing that's not connected is the flywheel or the torque converter. We'll get that up when it's up in the air. It's going to be a little bit easier than doing it under there right now. I cut the motor mounts off the frame the other day. Got those setting up on the back of Cal's car. Got to clean those up. And I'm going to have to add a little filler plate on the frame rail. Sorry, Cal's out ripping the pit bike right now. Some filler plates to make up the gap from where I had to cut my motor mount plates off of the frame before. So that's what I'm going to cut out with the plasma cutter right now, and then we'll get those on there. Hopefully get this thing sliding in. so these are the motor mounts that I cut off the other day, and they were welded, so I had to cut behind the weld, which therefore shortened them. So that's why I made these plates here. These are going to go on the frame, weld them all 4 ways around, and then that'll make up the distance of what I cut off of these. So we got the engine and the trans in all mounted up. Like I said, I had to cut my motor mounts off the other day. So I went ahead, cleaned those up, and then I had to make a couple little plates. If you look in here, you can see, just to fill the gap. So those are all squared up, engines zeroed, both directions. We got a 3-degree angle back, so the tail shaft is angled proper, so that we can get the pinion angle set up and we don't get any of that vibration that I had before. Alright, all the mounts are tacked in. Now we're going to have to pull the motor and trans back out and finish weld everything. Just weld those up, repaint the frame, and we'll slide that all back in for its final time. And then we'll get the heads. Bolts are on the way, the head bolts are. So when those show up, we'll be getting the brand new AFRs up on this older small block, and we're going to see what this thing can do. Alright, after a lot of up and down, we've got the motor and trans back in loud and ugly. It's finally going to be its final time in and out. I painted the frame up to here, like I showed you earlier, just so I could get the motor in and start putting that back together. Then the last step was going to be fixing my tilt front end and painting that. Because really, if it comes down to brass tacks, if I don't get to paint my frame, whatever, we're just trying to make it to the show. But it's all in, everything looks good. The new trans with the 2-piece bell housing, everything. Can't wait. Next step is going to be ripping the rear end and the trailing arms out to get it ready for the ladder bars and the new drive shaft loop. Yesterday I went ahead and got the rear end ripped out of Loud and Ugly. Got everything pretty much gutted on the frame, besides this cross member here. There's some rivets that I'm just going to use a gouging tool on a plasma cutter to knock those heads off on both sides and then get this out of there, because we're going to replace it with this heavy duty one that Checkered Racing sent me, and then we're going to get these ladder bars all fitted up in here. This cross member is giving me a heck of a time coming out. I'm just weaseling its way out. I got this clamp here, and then I'm beating it this direction on this side, just so that clamp will hold that, and it'll pivot itself out here. I think it's out. So I got some stock coils and trailing arms, and even the cross member. Heck, if you want it, I'll throw in the bolts. It's all good to go. You just gotta cut out your rivets and do that. That was fun. But now we get to put that beautiful piece of art in there. I just got this cross member all marked out. We got both our cuts here. We're gonna put it in this little bandsaw and let that cut nice and straight. We're looking at 33 1/4 across the inside of the frame rail, from inside here over to the other side. We got the cross member all cut out, nice and short now. So now I'm just going to pound it in between the frame rails. Looks perfect in there. They did an awesome job with all the fab work on it. All you gotta do when you buy these is just chop it to whatever your ID, your frame rails are, and put it wherever you want. Line it up with your drive shaft, or wherever your drive shaft comes off the trans there, and you know, make it work for your application. The center of this 2-inch hoop is 6 inches back from the center of the yoke, slammed all the way into the trans, so it's definitely gonna be within reason and where they want it to pass tech inspection. Got the drive shaft loop finished welded in. All welds turned out pretty good. This one was the trickiest to get behind that bracket there. But everything's a go. Got the rear end out here. These are the stock trailing arm brackets here. I'm just going to blow these welds off with the gouging tool on the plasma cutter. And then that way I can fit up the ladder bar brackets and hopefully get this thing hanging up soon. Alright, where do I even begin with this episode? We started with the motor out of the truck, then we put the motor back in the truck, adjusted the pinion angle, or the tail shaft angle on the trans and everything, pulled it all back out, re-welded the motor mounts, painted it up, put the motor back in. I got this cross member pulled out, we got the drive shaft loop put in, got the rear end gutted so that I can get these ladder bars started, and that's what you're going to see in the next episode of Loud and Ugly Garage. We'll catch you then.